Hey friends, you're listening to This Quote Changed My Life, a podcast about intentional action. My name is Tracey and I'm the host of the show. Hi friends, Tracey from the future. I am just about to get started editing this podcast episode and I picked up on a mistake. I've said the podcast is about intentional action, which it kind of is, but the tagline I usually use is an inspired action. So I did pick up on it now. I don't know what happened during the podcast recording, but I must have had a brain fart. So forgive me, and let's enjoy the rest of the episode. And welcome back to everybody watching on YouTube. I look like I'm blending into the beanbag behind me because I'm wearing a jumper. It's a bit cold this morning in Sydney. And I'm a little bit of a mess. I have my daughter home with me. So if you hear in the background, that's my sweet girl Jovi, and she's our guest star. She's just chilling. She's cool. But thank you so much for joining me back for episode 69 on the podcast. I have a fun episode planned for next week for number 70, but we'll talk about that next time. I always say this, I think that I'm always so chuffed that people are listening to the podcast still. But I really am, and I think that I learn a lot along the way when I write up these podcast episodes, and I think about the quotes that really have meant something to me. So I hope that you're getting some sort of learning experience from my podcast episodes as well. If you didn't know already, because I don't think I mentioned this much, but I have an Etsy store where I have created mindfulness and mindset worksheets. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, you can head on over to my Etsy store, and I'll put the link here in the YouTube video and in the podcast description. And that's one way that you can support me. I wanted to do this podcast episode as a piggyback on from last week's episode, where we talked about figuring out who we're not in order to figure out who we are. And I think that's one of the greatest questions that you can ask yourself is, what don't I want, in order to figure out what you're going to do next. So this quote for this episode is, say, part 2 of what we learned last week. And the quote is, who am I? What do I want? And how do I get there? And I think that sounds like a really simple set of 3 questions, that you might have asked yourself. But if you really sit down and look at it, these questions can be very, what's the word for it? These questions, though simple, it's often the simplest things that you need to ask yourself. You don't need to ask yourself anything more than that. Who am I? What do I want? And how am I going to get there? That's right, Joe. How are we going to get there? So I think these questions are for everyone at every stage of life. And I think about my son, who's now in high school, and he's choosing his subjects for school. What's he going to choose? Who is he right now? What does he want to learn right now? And how is he going to get there? And he's chosen really well. He's doing really well in history and geography, and we're so happy for him. And again, these questions apply for when you're, heading to university, when you're coming out of university and choosing a job. And then later in life, when you want a second career or a third career, or trying to figure out what you want to do. It doesn't even apply to schooling things. It can apply to how you want to feel and how you're going to heal yourself. People don't often ask these questions of how they're feeling and how they're doing health-wise, mental health-wise, physically, spiritually. Who are you now? What kind of life do you have now? What kind of things do you want to do? And how are you going to get there? Very important questions, right, when you think about it. I've never really been one for New Year's resolutions, so I hope that you can take these 3 questions and apply it to your life today. Do not wait for the start of a week, the start of the month, start of the year, whatever. You can ask yourself these questions today. Who are you? What do you want? And how are you going to get there? So I really want you to focus on these questions today. Who are you? Who aren't you from last week? And then who are you? What do you want to do? What do you want to do? It doesn't have to be big things. Again, it can be small things. What do you want to do? What do you want to let go of? What do you want more in your life? What do you want to do? And how are you going to get there? Do you need help? Do you need to ask people for help? Do you need to ask me for help? Do you need to cut people from your life? All these little things that can pivot you towards what you want in life. Yeah, I know, Jovi. They've got it, right? They've got it. See, Jovi knows the score. She knows that you've got it. You just need to sit down and really think about what you want in life. I think it's time to do that, right? Thank you so much for joining me for this super quick podcast episode. I wanted to get it out, even though I am with my baby girl at home. I really hope that, again, all my podcast episodes give you something to think about, but especially this one. We often do not think about ourselves. And if this is the sign for you, then hello, I'm your sign. I want you to create the life that you dream of right now. And it might look different to what you thought it might be 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and it will look again different in 5 or 10 years time down the track. I want you to think about what you want right now and how you're going to get it. Or that's your homework for the next week or for the next month or the next year, is to ask yourself these questions. Who are you? Who aren't you? What do you want? And how you're going to get there. And I know that sometimes dreams sound crazy to others, but does it sound crazy to you? Is it what you really want to do? And I truly hope that you have the courage and the confidence to own what you want in life. We have one life to live, and you are in charge of where you want to go. So be in charge of your dreams and what you want to do and how you want to feel, and tell me how you go. Come and find me on Instagram on Make Sunshine Co. You can also check out the podcast website, thisquotepodcast.com, or find me on Etsy. I am rooting for you. Jovi's rooting for you. We cannot wait to see what you do. Start today. Start right now. Let me know how you're going, and I will catch you next week. Bye bye.